Tobias Harris over me?
Everyone loves talking about when teams get things right. No better example in today's NBA than the two small market powerhouses, Oklahoma City and San Antonio, two of the brightest futures looking to contend for the next decade. A couple weeks ago, I made a video on teams who chose the right star to build around when there was a choice amongst two players that would have made or break the franchise. That's how the history of the NBA will be written. But realistically, for every genius decision, there are many that age horribly, teams convincing themselves they took the right guy only to end up being in disaster, trading away their team savior that never was. Many of those guys sent away not only turned to NBA champs, but all-time greats, elevating another team with their former franchises going backwards, the most painful thing in all of pro sports. These are the moments where teams had two stars, picked the wrong one, paid heavily for the despicable consequences that followed. Starting all the way back to the 1960s, Detroit Pistons having young scoring point guard Dave Bing and relentless two-way presence power forward Dave DeBusschere. Big D played 6 seasons in the Motor City, a proven 3-time All-Star of the team, but Bing, 3 years younger, capped off winning Rookie of the Year in 1967, put on a massive leap his second season, posted averages of over 27 points, 6 assists, made All-NBA first team. DeBusschere, age 25, was a former player coach for 2.5 seasons. Bing was just 25. Team lost to the Celtics. It was Bing's lack of defense that became his biggest downfall. Gambled too much on steals. Detroit traded away their captain for a past his prime, Walt Bellamy. Bing enjoyed putting up solid numbers for years, but only played in 2 more playoff series with the franchise. DeBusschere, on the other hand, became the heart and soul of New York Knicks chemistry, adapted perfectly, winning 2 titles as a defense-first guy. Bing, being a longtime Piston, led to incredible success off the court, served as mayor of the city, and excelled in many areas of life. DeBusschere worked in the Knicks front office, became responsible for the NBA-ABA merger. After the trade, it took Detroit 20 years to win their first title. Buffalo Braves giving up on promising 21-year-old Moses Malone to keep past his prime Bob MacLeod. One of the most bizarre careers for any superstar the league has seen. Malone made his NBA debut with the Braves, lasted 2 games, coming from the ABA, 6 total minutes in uniform to be exact, established himself as a future star, turning pro straight out of high school. At one point, the Braves not only had McAdoo and Moses, but rookie future All-Star Adrian Dantley for a couple weeks. A what-if big 3 that would have changed the trajectory of the entire league. The future 3-time MVP traded for 2 future firsts and cash, a decision that destroyed the franchise, having to relocate to San Diego before winding up in Los Angeles under the awful Donald Sterling era. Moses being traded away for pennies due to the team wanting to sign McAdoo to a long-term deal, but elected to trade him to the Knicks instead in December 1976 for scraps, less than 2 months after Moses gone. Malone went on to become one of the greatest players, a 13-time All-Star, became the face of one of the all-time title teams, earned best player status for a few years. McAdoo's game regressed a bit, but found a way to become a great role player for the Showtime Lakers, winning 2 titles. The Braves finally moved to San Diego in the 78-79 season before having multiple ownership changes. The way how Seattle Sonic fans feel about losing their team almost 20 years after, Buffalo fans dealt with the same brutal experience 30 years before. 1993-94 Atlanta Hawks trading away franchise legend Dominique Wilkins. First season of head coach Lenny Wilkins. Their superstar, despite being 34 years old, could still score with the best of them. Came off averaging nearly 30 points the 93 season after tearing his Achilles. Franchise had the best record in the Eastern Conference, 36-16. When Wilkins played his last game in uniform, The 9-time All-Star, bound to be a free agent, had the perfect opportunity to dominate the conference after Jordan announced his first retirement. Dominique shifted to Donald Sterling's awful Clippers. In return, got back Danny, nicknamed No Knees Manning, a good player in his own right and former #1 pick, was just an okay 16-6 guy, not as good as Wilkins. The only teams to fear out east was New York and Indiana. Organization felt Manning the better fit. Many consider the team's best player to be all-star point guard Mookie Blaylock, an elite passer, averaged almost 10 dimes, over 2.5 steals, defensive first-team specialist at 26 years old, the face to build around, pairing up with the younger 27-year-old Manning. Atlanta thought Wilkins, a ticking time bomb with his past injury, ended up being a lose-lose trade. The Hawks lost to Indiana in 6 games semifinals. Blaylock's first 2 games of the playoffs shot a poor 6 of 26 from the field, averaged just 12.5 points, shot 37%. Pacers series. Worse off, Manning walked away in free agency, signed with Phoenix after 26 games with the ATL, franchise retooled with Mookie by adding Steve Smith later, Dikembe Mutombo, but never got past the second round until 2015. Had Atlanta tried to go all in '94 and have Wilkins walk after that season, the outcome would have likely been third and a second round exit. One of the dumbest decisions any organization could possibly make. Charlotte chose Larry Johnson over Alonzo Mourning. The newly expansion franchise, at the conclusion of its 3rd season, landed #1 pick, the ultra-athletic 6'6" power forward out of UNLV. The former national champion, labeled as an up-and-coming superstar, had God-given athleticism. Team already had good pieces in Kendall Gill, Muggsy Bogues, and Del Curry. After winning Rookie of the Year, Charlotte landed 2nd overall pick, Georgetown center Alonzo Mourning, a dominant two-way machine who was going to be a star for many years. Both guys averaged above 20 and 10. Franchise won its first playoff series over Boston with this iconic Mourning buzzer beater. Team heavily relied on the 2 stars, regardless of how good the young talent may seem. Not having any established vets to keep the 2 in check proved fatal down the line. The 2 battled intensely at practice, trying to prove bragging rights on who's the truly better player. LJ even taunted rookie Mourning, showing off his Rookie of the Year leather coat, saying, "Hey, young fella, if you play real hard, you might get one of these jackets." Alonzo himself came up short in winning the award because of this guy. Right before the start of the 93-94 season, Charlotte went all in on LJ, nicknamed Grandmama, had the personality and style, appeared in many commercials, one of the hottest names in all of basketball. Given the biggest deal in league history at the time, a whopping 12 years $84 million contract signed the same day Jordan announced his retirement, leaving the league wide open for contention. But that massive deal left the team in a financial burden, resulting in not enough money and retaining Alonzo down the line. Team owner George Shin, very fond of LJ, called him the leader of the team, and he will always be the leader. Their so-called leader unfortunately injured his lower back to start the following season. His athleticism was gone, went on to miss 31 games. Mourning missed 22 contests himself. Charlotte finished with just 41 wins. Wasn't good enough to make the playoffs. Zoe made his first All-Star team, clearly became the better player of the 2. Johnson had to retool his style of play, became more perimeter oriented with his depleting back. 94-95 season, supposed to be the year Charlotte went far. Mourning still 2 years away from being a restricted free agent. Hornets won 50 games, earned the 4th seed, but unfortunately, Michael Jordan suddenly announced his return to the NBA. Weeks before the end of the season, Chicago had the 5th seed, resulting in a nightmare first round matchup. Game 4, Johnson missed the game winner that would have sent the series back home, losing 3-1 in the best of 5. An unfortunate end of the Johnson-Mourning duel. League had a 3-month lockout during the summer. Under the new CBA, Mourning all of a sudden became an unrestricted free agent in '96, leading the franchise to panic. Zoe demanded more money than what Charlotte initially offered. Team then looked to trade Mourning heavily, sent him to Miami for Glenn Rice and others. LJ wasn't too pleased of the deal, thought Mourning's selfishness cost the team. The following year, Charlotte went 500, falling a game short of the playoffs, 1 game behind Mourning's Heat. leading to Johnson's departure to New York in exchange for Anthony Mason. Alonzo then signed for a massive 7-year, $105 million contract with Miami. All the hostility, rivalry, beef, and anger amongst the two resulted in their massive brawl, captivated by little Jeff Van Gundy getting dragged like a broom. Had Charlotte not rushed into giving Johnson such a massive extension and balanced out both contracts amongst LJ and Zoe, the two might have won multiple playoff series together in the mid to late 90s. To this day, Charlotte remains the only franchise in the NBA, alongside New Orleans, to never make a single conference finals appearance. Washington Bullets, having both Michigan Fat 5 legend teammates, traded for Chris Webber after his rookie season, drafted 5th overall pick Juwan Howard. Both play similar positions, established chemistry, but given Webber's missed time with injuries, it was Howard who carried the team for most of the 95 and 96 season. Team finished just 21 wins in 95. Webber played just 15 contests following year. Howard put up 22 and 8, made the All-Star team alongside All-NBA. Franchise drafted another future All-Star power forward, Rasheed Wallace, his lone season in DC as a rookie. Given Juwan's incredible play, management rewarded him with a 7-year, $105 million contract summer of 96. Everyone knew he wasn't superstar material. First player in league history to have a 9-figure deal. The two co-captains finally got things together by the 97 season, made the 8th seed, won 44 games, swept by Jordan's Bulls. However, the future seemed bright alongside point guard Ross Strickland. Team changed their name from the Bullets to the Wizards. Franchise fell to shambles after center Georgie Marison got hurt over the summer filming a movie set. Multiple teammates got into fights, off-court troubles. Team buried a young unknown Ben Wallace on the bench. Howard's production couldn't live up to his massive contract, became untradeable. Both guys had 0 playoff wins together. A 25-year-old Webber then traded to Sacramento for a 33-year-old Mitt Richmond. GM Wes Unseld, concerned about Webber's legal troubles and immaturity, wasn't going to give their star player a long-term deal. Howard, on the other hand, never gotten better, only became a one-time All-Star, while C. Webb entered his prime in Sacramento, became a real MVP candidate, made the franchise title contenders, only to get screwed over by the refs in 02. The Wizards wouldn't sniff the playoffs between 98 to 2004. Ended up making Mitt Richmond the highest paid 2 guard in the league, got rid of Ben Wallace, traded Howard in 2001 for a bunch of average players. The current Wizards giving up on Denny Avia a few years ago, way too early, just a resemblance on how they got rid of Webber, being too impatient, putting all their eggs on the inferior Juwan Howard. An absolute huge mistake, with Washington giving up on both Wallaces early on. Another dysfunctional franchise, the Minnesota Timberwolves, elected to get rid of the rising Chauncey Billups. All three will win a championship together with the Pistons. Team elected to choose 32-year-old aging point guard Terrell Brandon. TB, a former 2-time All-Star himself, joined the 96 and 97 season, suffered a serious knee injury, 47 games into the 02 campaign, ruled out for the rest of the season, allowing backup 25-year-old Billups to start and flourish. Given Chauncey's bad reputation as a journeyman, got the bust label multiple times, especially being a former top 3 pick, the future 5-time All-Star himself averaged a stellar 12.5 points on the 50-win Wolves, looked perfect as the second option to Garnett. However, Billups, being a free agent in the offseason, told Minnesota he wanted to resign. Even with the whole Joe Smith debacle, the stupid franchise didn't even make Chauncey any offers. So he signed 5 years, $35 million with the Pistons. Ownership wanted to see how Brandon performed when he returned. The unfortunate consequences: Terrell Brandon never played another NBA game, forced to retire after the knee injury. The Wolves choosing a retired player over a future Hall of Famer, an absolute travesty. Billups would then lead Detroit to the 04 title, became one of the best floor generals during the mid to late 2000s. The Pistons' Joe Dumars also made the fatal mistake getting rid of their 32-year-old leader, going all in on their first-round pick, second-year Rodney Stuckey. Billups led the Pistons to 6 straight conference finals, but after 3 straight third-round exits, Dumars wanted to squeeze every ounce of greatness Allen Iverson had left and banked hard on Stuckey to take over the starting point guard role. none of it worked out, resulting in countless rebuilds, a decade and a half of dysfunction. If the Pistons elected to not trade Billups, their contention window would have extended 2 to 3 more years. Ronnie Stuckey left remembered during the dark times of the Greg Monroe, Josh Smith, Andre Drummond, Stan Van Gundy debacle. Milwaukee regretfully trading All-Star Ray Allen, banking on their younger rising star, Michael Redd, middle of the 02-03 season. The forgotten trio of Sam Cassell, Ray, and Glenn Robinson had the most talented team in the East in the 01 season. Controversially lost in the 7-game series to Allen Iverson's Sixers. The season after, Allen, who never missed a game before 2001, had knee problems. Whole team banged up, missed the playoffs after being first place in mid-March, sinking in all-time proportions. An angry Mad Dog traded for a washed-up Tony Kukoc. Everyone knew Ray Allen, the face of the franchise, but in a shocking turn of events, Coach George Karl hated Ray, only to get a past his prime 34-year-old Gary Payton on an expiring contract and a young Desmond Mason. Team activated bench warmer Michael Redd, the Ray Allen successor. Disgraceful GM Ernie Grunfeld traded Cassell to Minnesota for scraps. Payton walked away in free agency to the Lakers. George Karl fired. The confusing franchise only stuck with sharpshooting Redd, becoming an all-star in 2004, led his team to the playoffs in both 04 and 06, but destroyed by the Pistons both times. Allen, on the other hand, made 7 more All-Stars, became the face of the Sonics franchise, played a vital role to Boston's 08 title team. His career outlasted Redd's by 2 years despite being 4 years older. The Bucks franchise became a joke for the entire decade until Giannis saved them. 2012 OKC choosing to keep Serge Ibaka instead of 6-man winner James Harden, one of the most stunning trades of the 2010s, one that altered the course of many all-time great career trajectories, including Kevin Durant's and Russ Westbrook's. OKC, fresh off an NBA Finals berth, had youth and time on their side, but just days before the start of the 2012-13 season, Sam Presti did the unthinkable, gave up their 17-point scorer, 23-year-old, soon-to-be multiple-time All-Star. All intentions was the Beard wanting a max contract after his rookie deal expires. OKC didn't want to be in the luxury tax. A small market team had to make room under the cap. In order to retain Harden, they could have either amnestied Kendrick Perkins or let defensive specialist Serge Ibaka walk. Serge came off second for Defensive Player of the Year, listed the same age as Harden. Ibaka agreed to a 4-year, $48 million extension before, leading many to believe management chose the defensive power forward over Harden. Right as the season ended, Ibaka, the type of player considered a special breed with his shot blocking and rim presence, anchoring OKC's defense before the three-point era. During the early to mid-2010s, a true contender needed a defensive big to battle guys like Tim Duncan, Lakers' massive front court of Gasol and Bynum, Memphis' Zach Randolph and Marc Gasol, and Clippers' Blake and DeAndre. Harden somewhat of a redundant of Westbrook, both good ball handlers, but James too good to come off the bench. Team traded him to Houston, got back a rental of Kevin Martin, a bunch of picks, one of whom turned out to become Steven Adams. But still, OKC with Durant and Russ never made it back to the finals. 2 more conference finals appearance, blew a 3-1 lead to Golden State 2016. Back then, everyone underestimated Harden's ability, being a one-man scoring machine in Houston immediately. The Beard becoming this good, nobody saw that coming. Jimmy Butler immediately got sick of Philly, realizing they weren't a serious organization, catered to Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, and Joel Embiid over him. Ever since losing to Kawhi, it was Butler himself who had the greatest playoff performances out of all those guys. Led his underdog Miami to 2 finals, while Ben, Tobias, and Embiid still has never gotten past the second round. A frustrated Simmons hated playing off ball in the Raptors series. When Coach Brett Brown handed Jimmy the keys to the offense, Ben failed to average double digits, taking 14 shots the final 3 games 2019 semis. As a result, Simmons shit the bed. Atlanta series 2 years later, out the NBA last season. Ben's inability to get better or take responsibility led to the Sixers' demise as a franchise. At least now they got a couple young studs. But if the organization knew Simmons wasn't going to be all that, they'd be happy to keep Jimmy and pair him up with Joel. Would have been an unstoppable duo in the East. Sacramento choosing De'Aaron Fox over Tyrese Haliburton, giving up their second-year stud for a much more ready and established Domantas Sabonis, resulted in dysfunctional disaster. Only seeing one postseason, 2023, followed by bad management, a terrible owner, a team battling for a top pick, becoming the Chicago Bulls version of the West, ended up with DeRozan and Levine. Fox later demanded out of Sacramento 2025, franchise having two great point guards stuck with zero, signed an older Westbrook. Haliburton became the face of Pacers basketball, led Indiana to the finals, was a win away from a title before tearing his Achilles. Sacramento hasn't been to the finals since the Rochester Royal days. There's a reason why the franchise continues to stink at all levels, from crucial mistakes, taking Bagley over Doncic, screwing up on Haliburton. Everyone knew Tyrese was the better long-term piece over Fox, but Sacramento desperately wanting to get back to the postseason as soon as possible, by all means necessary, only to end up sabotaging their long-term hopes. The franchise might not be relevant until next decade. Honorable mentions: Clippers essentially choosing Blake Griffin 2017 over Chris Paul, giving Blake an extension only to realize he wasn't working out, traded him to Detroit less than a year after signing his new deal. Dallas getting rid of all three of their promising future stars, Jason Kidd, Jamal Mashburn, and Jimmy Jackson, due to constant drama. Team having no veteran leadership, had to rebuild from scratch. And the Bulls throwing in the towel after 2017, getting rid of Dwayne Wade, Rajon Rondo, traded Jimmy Butler for a couple young pieces, none of whom worked out. That Bulls team might have made the conference finals had Rondo not gotten hurt in round 1. All these terrible decisions shows it's never just about talent, but having a sense of direction. One wrong choice can set a team back decades or even force them to relocate to entirely different cities. As for these teams, the past isn't just history, it's a constant reminder of what should have been.